What are you up to? I'm searching hard to find a picture of you wearing taco costume and dancing in Halloween. That was hilarious. Of course you cannot find them. I deleted all of them. I just actually recovered them. And I'm gonna show it to our friends. Give me the laptop!
A few moments later.
But seriously, you remember that we created a video that showed how we can connect our own text data to ChatGPT and start chatting and asking questions about our data? Can we do this with images? Or maybe even videos? You can actually chat with your images as we chat with our text data through creating embeddings out of your images and retrieve them from your vector database. So we can, That means I could just say, hey, give me the picture of MG wearing taco costume in Halloween, and boom, the image is there. If you have that image in your database, then yes. Then show it how to do so. Then, let's go. Hello my friends, and welcome to another video which we're going to discuss how this time you can chat and retrieve your images. We already previously recorded a video that how you can chat with your own text data, even tabular data, through connecting them to GPT models or even any large language model. But in this video we're gonna see how we can use Florence API, which is a recent custom vision model on Azure under Cognitive Services that can help us to understand the context of our images and even support for creating embedding out of the images. So when we have embedding out of images, what we're gonna do? We're gonna save them in a vector database. And remember, recently Azure Cognitive Search added the support of hosting your embeddings like a vector database. Then in this video we're going to use Cognitive Search as well on Azure to host the embeddings that we're going to generate through the support of Florence API, a custom vision model on Azure, to be able to chat and retrieve our images. But just type in what is the type of the image you're looking for and get that image back for you from your own images and the database that you're hosting those images. Then let's check it out. Before we start, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so you will get notified for the next video. Alright, thank you. As we discussed in previous video, I already recorded a dedicated video just about vector database in Azure Cognitive Search. That was a recent announcement. That means you can generate your own embeddings using, let's say, OpenAI models. Bring your word embeddings to Cognitive Search on Azure, and then later on when you want to chat with your own data or retrieve your own internal knowledge, when you have your own ChatGPT chatbot as an example, then you will do word embedding similarity calculation. You have your text as an input, as a question, you generate embeddings, and then you have the embeddings of your own document. So you will calculate the similarity of your question embeddings with your knowledge embeddings to see which chunk of data is relevant to your question to get answered by GPT models, right? I will definitely watch that video out before watching this video. I will add that video to the video description here and also on the top right of this screen. Make sure you check that out. I have already fully explained how we can leverage this technique. But as we talked there, we use text and our knowledge was text too. So I was chatting and asking questions about my own data, which was text, using word embeddings. And if you remember, one of the benefits of vector database on Azure Cognitive Search that we discussed was that embeddings cannot be just based on text. You can generate embeddings out of images or out of your videos too. Videos are just a couple of images, right? This is exactly what we're going to discuss about. So if I can generate embeddings, vector embeddings out of images, does that mean I can chat with my images too? The answer is yes, and this is exactly what we're going to discuss and showcase you a demo how we can do this. And the trick here is we're going to use another cognitive service. We're going to use Cognitive Search as well, but for creating embeddings out of image, we're going to use Microsoft Florence Foundation model. This went to public preview. I think they announced on March 7, 2023, so that's not really that old. And what is Florence model? It's a new foundation model trained off with billions of text and images. So that's a computer vision model. And here's the key. It is trained with billions of text image pairs. This is exactly what we want. We want to have our own images. Let's say I have a company, have a ton of images, right? And I have to sort of generate embeddings out of what those images are containing. But let's say I have image of a cat, and how can I generate embeddings out of the image of a cat? So I need to sort of convert those images to based on a text that talk about the content of that image and then generate embeddings. So that means I need a model that understands the pair of text to image or image to text. Sort of that's the whole idea. And this is why Florence model will shine, which is a part of Azure Cognitive Service Vision, and it has great actual capabilities. To show you a quick demo here, they have added this nice video. As you can see, this is a video given to Florence model, so it is sort of describing what's happening. There's a cheetah sitting on a hill, a woman in sunglasses, and cheetah sitting in grass next to a car, a couple of people in a car. So you'll see that it can understand the context of what's going on in an image. And here's a video which is multiple frames, so frame by frame, image by image, it can perceive what's going on. And you will see that image text pair is showing itself. We do have text, the context, and the given image. That means if I have the cheetah picture here, and I will know that this picture is talking about cheetah sitting on a hill, then I can just simply generate the embeddings out of this. And next time when I ask a question, my question gonna be generated to embeddings as well. Then I do similarity calculation and get the image back. Exactly what we did with chat with your text data. So I want to have a chatbot, let's say, to ask, hey, give me the pictures of cheetah sitting on a hill or on the grass beside the car based on images of my own data set. And that's it. That chatbot should retrieve all the data back to you. So what we're going to use Florence model to generate embeddings and stuff. Then I'm going to use Azure Cognitive Search to save these word embeddings or text embeddings coming from these images in a vector database of Cognitive Search, and later on query my Cognitive Search based on the image that I am asking. So let's see how we can do this. First of all, before I start chatting with our images, we have to generate embeddings, right? And for generating embeddings, I should sort of call that Florence Azure model to receive my images and then sort of give me the embeddings, right? So in order to do so, I need to code this. And we have coded this process and hosted in an Azure function. And this is my Azure function. I called it ImageMG that does the process that I told you. I need this Azure function because when I go to Cognitive Search to store my embeddings, this function gonna generate embeddings for me. Now let's go to the code that how we create this Azure function, how I deploy that, and provide you walkthrough to make sure you understand what's going on in the code. So let me open up my VS Code. Before I actually open up my VS Code, let me show you all my app folder. And by the way, I downloaded these codes and this app Azure function from the GitHub. I will add the reference GitHub to the Discord channel on the reference section. So go to the Discord channel. The URL of that channel is on the video description. Go on the references. You will see the GitHub repo that I downloaded all this code and also the Azure function code that I'm going to show you right now. So these are typical files that comes with Azure function. If you want to create an Azure function app, you have to have a file called requirement.txt. For example, that talks about the pip packages you need to have in place. I just opened that. I need Azure function and request get installed pip request pip Azure function inside my app to be working. Let's click on host to see what it is. There you go. It just opened another tab. So it is talking about some configurations that we need to have in place with our Azure function. For example, do we need to have application inside for logging and stuff enabled or not? So again, these are typical configurations. You can use them as is. I didn't actually change anything when I grabbed it from the reference. And the main important part that we need to have the code that generate embeddings and stuff is actually here. Get image embeddings. And this init.py code is the one that is doing all this magic. So let me open up this init.py. I already have it open actually. Let me close extra tabs. There you go. Let me also minimize this. Okay. So let's see what this code does in Azure Function. So it is going to be an API, right? So it's going to be listening through HTTP request. So it is listening for any call that you want to have. That means, hey, I'm calling you because I have an image I'm going to give to you to give me the embeddings using that Florence API, right? Okay, so it will receive your input. And what's going to be my input? My input going to be the image URL and the record ID. So what are these? These are the image name and image path that I have them stored in a storage account, in a blob. I'm going to show them to you. So this is simply just receiving the list of the images, URLs, and the path of them in a blob when I call this API. And what's going to happen? Then I'm going to generate embeddings. How? You calling this function. I want to generate embeddings of an image with the given image URL, which is sitting in my blob. But how that function works, that function actually has been defined here. So you will see that it is calling my cognitive service endpoint and key. I'm going to tell you where you can grab it. I deployed this Azure function and I removed because these are credentials, but I can show you how I did. And then in the URL section, you will see that it is going to under computer vision of this cognitive service. And then I want to vectorize an image. So that's going to be the Florence model. And then based on the given key, it's calling that Florence model. And there you go. Then my embeddings are generated here. So I'm retrieve them back as a vector here. And that's going to be my output, which I'm going to return as a response body, which is coming from values. And the values are appended vectors plus the given image path. This is your vector, and now my vector is ready. So each time that API is listening for generating embeddings. Now I have a code listening 24/7 like an API that generate image embeddings using Florence model, right? But before I close this, let me show you how I grab these two. You need to create a cognitive service resource. Let me show you on Azure portal. There you go. As you can see, I am under Azure AI Services. Just type Azure AI Services on the top or cognitive services in your search, and you should create one simply. And after you create, you come here, you can see overview, activity log stuff, and under key and endpoint, you have to copy the key and copy the endpoint to add it actually here in the code, which I show you. This is the endpoint and this is the key. That's it. Now, what's gonna happen? I have this code that I showed you. I'm gonna deploy this to my Azure function, right? You have to first create an Azure function. If you haven't, just type Azure function here on the top. I have already created one, image mg. So this one, you will create this, but no function has been deployed to it yet. So you will see here under name nothing, but because I have deployed that, my function is deployed over this. So you're gonna create sort of an empty Azure function that is waiting for you to deploy something. Let's see how we can deploy this. So here, again, we talked about this is my code, but how did I deploy this? You should navigate to the folder that you have downloaded all those app files or function files from that GitHub URL that I showed you. Let me actually show you that GitHub URL to make sure that you understand how you need to copy those codes. That's the GitHub URL. Again, I will add that link to the Discord channel. And you can see the code that we're gonna start, which we haven't went through that yet. It is vector image, and the function, the Azure function code stuff I talked about is under here, functions. So you need to sort of download anything under functions that I call it app in my code actually here. So app is equivalent of this function. Okay, now going back to my VS Code again. So first thing, make sure you're in the directory that you have that app or that function, and you need to do AZ login. So make sure you log in to your Azure subscription. When you hit AZ login, make sure AZCLI is installed. You hit enter, it will ask you to put your email and password, and you log in, and that's it. And after that, the only thing that you need to do, let me double check. There you go. You just need to type func Azure function publish, name of your Azure function, and Python. So what is that name of Azure function? Remember I told you need to create one. There you go. And that's it. This will deploy this code or function to generate embeddings in your Azure function, and that's how you will see your function has been generated and it is listening. So first step, a function that generates embeddings is done and deployed in Azure function. But I'm gonna index these embeddings in cognitive search. Remember, we're going to query our stuff, index them. So how can I sort of call these Azure function from cognitive search to generate embeddings and then host those embeddings as a vector database in cognitive search? This is what we're going to discuss about something called a skill set in Azure Cognitive Search. So let me go to my cognitive search. This is my cognitive search, right? And that's the search. Let me go to overview actually. So this is the search service that I have, and there is something called a skill set. What is a skill set? Skill sets are specific functions that they can be ML based functions that do some transformation on your data when you do indexing. For example, you have trained a machine learning model that detect any name of a drug, medicine stuff inside your given text. So you want to call that model when you do indexing your data that, hey, when you index my data, call this model that I have trained to detect the drug names inside the text and have them as a field in my index data. That means when I search my data, I can use the drug name to search those chunk of data. So you can bring your own ML functions, your function, your own machine learning models, or some pre-built skill sets that Azure Cognitive Search gives to you. So that's very powerful tool. One of the different type of skill set that you can have is bringing a web API. And that web API is our Azure Function API. That's the API that generates embeddings. So I'm gonna add that Azure function we just deployed as a skill set to cognitive search to index my data by generating embeddings and indexing those embeddings. Let me show you how. The rest, we have done that through code, and again, the code is added in Discord channel. So let's see how we can do this without manually doing this. So going back to my VS Code, this is the main code that's gonna create all those indexes, skill sets, and generate the vector database, and then query our images. Before we go through that, let me show you the images that I've used, again from the same GitHub repo. So I do have already a blob storage I created. Let me go to my Azure portal. Okay, let me find it. There you go, I just found it. So this is the storage account that I have. I have created a container called Vector Sandbox, and under that you can see I have some images. And by the way, I have enabled anonymized access, so these are not private for this demo. So now I have these images. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna index them by Florence API embeddings and then query them by chat. Let's see how we can do this. So going back to my VS Code, this is what we're gonna do. Azure Cognitive Search vector search code sample with cognitive service Florence Vision API for images. Now, based on what I have explained so far in 15 minutes, you should understand what this title is. These are the stuff you need to install for connecting to cognitive search, connecting to storage, blah, 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 blah. So make sure you have them all in place. Going all the way down, these are coming from the code sample. You need to import this, that we're gonna leverage them in the code. And more importantly, these gonna be the credentials you need to have for running rest of the code. So what they are, the first one, the cognitive search endpoint that you want to have the embedding sort of index there. How do you grab that? Let me show you. Going back to your cognitive search, this is my cognitive search. Click on keys and you will see the, sorry, this is, let me double check. Sorry, going back to the overview, the endpoint is on the right side in front of URL, and then under keys you will have the key that you can copy them, because when you come to the code you need to have that endpoint and key pasted there. And you are going to create an index by all these embeddings, right? So give it a name. That's my random name. I added image 5. I was trying with multiple numbers, so I made some mistakes. That's why the 5 is there, but it doesn't matter. Now, what is cognitive service endpoint? That's that AI service that has Florence stuff we created, right? So how did I grab that? Let me show you. Let me go back to my Azure portal. There you go. So this is my Azure AI service. Go under keys and endpoints, copy both of them. Then when you come here, put your endpoint and put the key there. Now, remember that we created that a skill set coming from, we're gonna create that a skill set coming from an Azure API function. This is exactly my Azure function endpoint. So ImageMG is the name of the Azure function that I deployed, I showed you, and this is the name of the function that I deployed under this Azure function. So here's the endpoint that we have. Next, blob connection string, that's the place that you have stored your data sources, your images. So how did I grab this? Let me show you again how I can do so. So you will come to your storage account, and then under access keys, you'll see that the connection string is there. You can show or copy that. By the way, these are credentials. You can have them in an operating system environment in a safer manner, or grab them from Azure Key Vault, right? And you just paste it here. And the container name that you have saved your images, I showed you mine is Vector Sandbox. That's it, you're done. So I ran this, it was pretty quick. And then after that, to just make sure you have successfully connected to your blob storage, this will give you the first URL of your blob. So if I click on that, you'll see that this is one of the images that I have saved there. So a lady wearing a red hat. Okay, let me close this. Now, what are we gonna do? I'm gonna connect my cognitive search to this blob, because this is the source of data I'm gonna index at, right? So let me minimize my terminal. And by this code, I'm connecting to my cognitive search, and I'm saying that, hey, I have a container in a blob storage that I want to create this as a data source in my cognitive search with the given name. And that's it, the data source created. So let me show you what's gonna happen in my cognitive search when I ran this. So you will see that inside my cognitive search service, data sources, I have image for blob. I created these one when I was testing the code, so you can ignore them. But now I have the source of my data from blob defined as a data source in cognitive search. That means this code worked properly. Now, creating a skill set. Remember I told you I'm going to create a skill set to use that Azure function? This is how we can do so. So here I'm saying, let me maximize this. I'm saying that, hey, I want to create a skill set in Azure Cognitive Service, which is a web API. That's going to be my Azure API function. And this API going to receive the image URL, which is the storage path and the storage name of that given image. And then this going to output some vectors, which are the embeddings for me. So I define that scale, then I add that skill set to my cognitive search, and I should have this image for a skill set created. Well, let's check it out. I go to the skill set. There you go, image for a skill set has been created. And if I open that up, you will see that, oh, it actually defined my Azure API function as a skill set to extract image vectors. Beautiful. Now, how did we connect this skill set to the index? Not yet. Let's create the index first. So going back, we're gonna create the index. So here, I'm saying that, hey, I want to create a sort of an index for my images using Azure Cognitive Search Python SDK here. And I'm saying that in this index, I have this field, the ID, the image URL, the title of the URL, and the vectors or embeddings of that URL. And this is going to be a single type. This is the dimension. This is going to be searchable. And because that's a vector, I need to do vector search. So I can specify more configurations that how I'm going to do vector search. For example, what's going to be the metric cosine calcularity, or what's going to be the ranking stuff, HNSW. That's the abbreviation of the function I told you about. So here I have now created the index, and I want to add that index to my cognitive search. That means image for index has been created. Let's go and check that out. So I'm going to back to my cognitive search indexes. There you go, image 4 has been created. But it doesn't have embeddings yet. I should connect sort of that skill set to this index to load and call those embeddings and load them to the index. How? Using indexer. So let's create an indexer. Now let me go back to my code. Creating an indexer is here. This is the naming convention added to the sample code. And again, I'm saying that, hey, I have the index created, but I want to have this indexer, which gonna have these fields, and this is this image vector coming in, and add it to my cognitive search or update it. That means now image for indexer has been created. So if I go back to indexer, you'll see that I tried it multiple times, it failed, but now this time worked. So this is actually the guy that called my Azure API through a skill set, Azure Function API, through a skill set to generate embeddings and have them indexed in the index that we created, right? That means we are ready to chat and query our images by text. But before I do so, let me show you the index, what's going on with the index we created. Let's check, for example, let me search a random number. I just want to see the results. Oh, sorry, let me go to the field. There you go. So you'll see the ID, image URL, the title, and the vectors are sort of generated inside this field. So if I go back to my now VS Code, this is the code that what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna generate embeddings of my question. For example, I'm gonna search for a black color hat. This is a text as an input, but the output gonna be an image based on my images in the blob storage. So I'm gonna receive this text. I need to generate embeddings of this text too by this function that is calling again the same cognitive service endpoint, the Florence API stuff. Then when I have this query of sort of converted to embedding, then I create this as a vector, and I say that, hey, I want to search my Azure Cognitive search embeddings and give me the top 1 search results from based on the image vector that I want to do, and see how close the embeddings of my question is to the embeddings of my image, and then give me the image URL and the title. So I search black color hat, and there you go. It grabbed the image where coming from my data set in my own blob storage without me even knowing, let's say this image exists. It is my internal data I'm chatting with that. So you can even extend this example to create a chatbot to chat with your images as much as you want. Let's actually change that black to red. I think I have another image in my blob storage I showed you earlier that has a lady with red color hat. There you go. Not only that, if you have an image from internet, you can even, for example, say, hey, that in my internal images, which one is the most similar one to the image coming from this public image? Let me show you what is this public image. I think I have it open somewhere. Let me double check. Okay, there you go. This is a public image. I think it's coming from onsplash.com. So I want to ask the same scenario that give me my own image that is very similar to this one. Okay? Because Florence can understand image text pair, remember? So going back to my VS Code, not this one. There you go. So I have this public image, and I'm saying that give me the most similar images that I have, the top 3. And they ran this. Look at that, the first one. And quite honest, it's very similar to this one, right? What else? The second one, a lady with a hat, again a lady with a hat. So you'll see that the first one was the most closest one, obviously. I got the title back, I got the image URL back. So that was a quick and simple demo to tell you that when we talk about embeddings and now we have a vector in the base in cognitive search, you can think about beyond going just your text documents. You can think about your images, your videos, any unstructured data that you can have the embeddings. Previously, it was hard to generate embeddings out of an image, but with these models like Florence that they understand text-image pair, you can get the context of an image, what this image is about, and convert them to embeddings and host them in cognitive search, index there so you can chat with your images too. And think about the chatbot we created when we chat with our PDF and documents. Now you can have images in another index, so you can have a chatbot that talk with both images and text. And think about the ton of other possibilities that you can enable in your project. So I hope that this video gave you the motivation, understanding this art of possibility. Of course, that's not like a project as of now that I showed you, but that was a demo to really show you the art of possibility, and that was really my purpose. And again, I add the link of all these codes to the Discord channel on the reference section. I hope you enjoyed the video. That's all.
If you want to get something bad and you want to get it as bad as you want to breathe, then you will get a big piece of it. And don't forget, people who rejected you or didn't believe in you, they're gonna watch you. So give them a magnificent show. Till next video, take care.